Listen now, we the talk around town. Alex threw the ball to Smokey for a touchdown. Ha. It's fourth down and you don't really want no more. We've been winning from the door. You should check the scoreboard. Ha. Check the scoreboard. Ha.
Welcome back to another episode of The Scoreboard. Today we're going to be discussing the NFL Top 100 list. It's finished up and we have a couple of duds, or a couple of talking points, I should call them, especially towards the top 10, and we're going to round up our breakout series looking at tight ends, and I'm curious to see what you picked there. I'm sure you were creative with those.
Tried to be. I think you could probably guess one or two of them, though.
I'll do my best. I should ask the traditional questions to give you your punchline. So, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm better than Damian Williams right now.
Okay. You had to come up with something. You gotta come up with something.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I was thinking all these guys are opting out, man. Who's the biggest name that has opted out so far? Probably Damian Williams. CJ Mosley.
And a couple of New England defenders too.
Yeah, exactly. Who was? Oh, Eric Solder opted out.
Yeah. The tackle for New York, right? Nate Solder, yeah.
Yeah, Nate Solder. I said Eric, didn't I?
The season could be bad. It could be bad. And what's the biggest problem is, I think, is the 3-week mandated IR for a positive test. So if a player tests positive or contracts that virus, they need to go on IR for 3 weeks. And the teams spend their life together during a season. So if one player gets the virus, and I don't know if you've seen it, but the Eagles, they tweeted a video yesterday practicing, and like people were wearing their masks below their noses and stuff. It was insane. So if that's how they're going to be handling it, and there's 50 people in the locker room or more than that, and they're doing the huddling and everything, there might be situations where half of a team is just going to be out for several games, and it could be an interesting season. It will definitely be an interesting season. It'll just whoever stays lucky.
I think so. I think the teams that are going to have the advantage this year are the ones who their players have already had it in the off season. Yeah, you know?
I can see that's a point. You know what? I feel like this is such a Belichick thing, and I'm surprised that he didn't actually, like in April or so, was like, okay, every member of the New England Patriots needs to go. They need to go out and get the virus, like under medical conditions. Just sit it out and then report, and then we'll report in August, and we'll be fine. It sounds like something he would totally have done.
You know, well, he can't go on record and say it, but it may have been suggested. No. You never know.
Maybe
Nick Saban. I'm sure Nick Saban thought about it.
Yeah, similar person. Though, as a college athlete, I'd be even more reluctant to do it because I'm not getting paid.
Oh yeah.
Like, what if I'm missing games? I'm not getting anything. NFL, maybe different story, but
little more.
It'll be interesting to see.
A little more dangerous if you get caught telling your teammates to get it. Also.
Yeah, that is true. Well, you don't have to tell them and just cough on them. That's all you do. You just sneeze around. I'm good.
Contract it yourself and then go around it.
Just lick everybody's locker. Yeah, just whatever. Whatever it takes to win. That's the Patriot way. I mean, I've been taught that's the Patriot way.
Yeah.
They have suspiciously many people opting out, though. I wonder what's behind that.
Oh, I think Belichick is behind that. Not necessarily wanting them to, but them not wanting to put up with a grueling season of Belichick, especially when they're not set up to win right now. So
it's true. Well, maybe they are.
I guess it depends on how much faith you have in Cam Newton at this point. But right now, dude, if I was on that team and I was looking at it, do I want to put up with Belichick for a whole season if we're losing? That's going to be...
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
That's going to be twice as bad. Here's my theory, and this is just a theory, right? But just thought experiment. So, Bill Belichick's thinking, no one's going to count this season, and it's going to be an absolute... It's going to be a clown fiesta. It's going to be a shit show. The whole season is going to be chaotic. No one's going to take it seriously and count it. There's always going to be an asterisk next to whoever succeeds this year. we're going to encourage our guys to opt out. And for once in my life, I'm going to be like the players coach. I'm like, take care of your own health, stay home, opt out, and just let all the other teams battle with the extra conditions and just tear themselves up. And the Patriots are going to be sitting there when everything's over next year in April, and they're going to be selecting their quarterback from Clemson because they tanked their entire player base, and they're going to be back on top for the first regular unimpeded season next year. How about that?
Man, that's tough. Like, a normal coach might think of that idea, right? I don't think Belichick thinks of that, because Belichick probably in his head is telling himself, well, I could just go get high school kids and still win, the division.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know.
But Belichick has been known to do something, to be planning, scheming.
Oh,
he definitely is good at that.
He's good at cheating also.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll see what happens here. But we wanted to talk about something that there actually is not a Patriot on the... Oh, there is actually totally a Patriot on the top 10 list. We want to talk about the NFL Top 100 list. We hinted at it last week, but at the time it wasn't complete. Now we have the final players revealed, and a couple of things that need to be mentioned once again. And this is a general thing, so I don't even want to complain about it. At the top, it's very offense heavy. Very offense heavy. You have 2 defensive players in the top 14. And that's, of course, Aaron Donald, and it's Stefan Gilmore, who's the Defensive Player of the Year. The rest are just offensive players. So I feel like this goes to reflect well, but just the way that the league is looking right now.
Oh, yeah.
But also just offense puts butts in seats. That's the known saying. And it feels like players like to highlight that more, too. Because this is voted by players, but you got your quarterbacks, your receivers, running backs, like 2 of each at least in the top 100, in the top 10, and only 2 defensive players in the 15.
Yeah, Chandler Jones is sitting right there at 15, which I don't know. I think you're right. It's a sign of the times, and the owners are pushing for more offense-heavy teams and more scoring and quicker scoring and high-flying offenses. I mean, look at what Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes, all these guys are in the top 10, and they are revolutionizing the game right now between running the ball, which you didn't see very much of that, 10 years in the past and better. And also, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is one of the best passers in the league also. And, well... you would say the best passer, and
I would say that, yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still hold a soft spot for guys like Matthew Stafford and Aaron Rodgers. Yeah. And guys
as long as Aaron Rodgers is in the league, I'm not going to declare you insane for saying that. Like that, Pat Mahomes is like the top guy. But as soon as Aaron retires, there's no hiding. Absolutely no hiding.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to semantics, but
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I like it though, dude. To tell you the truth, I mean, I'm an offensive guy, I'm a fantasy analyst, if you will. So. Oh
yeah.
So I love.
You like seeing the scores go up. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I love skill positions, man.
That makes sense. So I want to quickly highlight this though, just how important the passing game has become. The top 26, so that's like the top quarter of the list. All defensive players, except for 1, are pass rushers. So
yes, you're right.
Not only have quarterbacks and receivers become that inflated and highlighted, the only defensive position that seems to matter is pass rushers. 26 and up, I'm going to read this out. Defensive players: Von Miller, TJ Watt, Cameron Jordan, Khalil Mack, Nick Bosa, Chandler Jones. Okay, there's Bobby Wagner, who's not a pure pass rusher. He's kind of an inside linebacker for the most part. There's just Stephan Gilmore, of course, Defensive Player of the Year, who had an insane season, so he should be in there. And Aaron Donald. And that's it. All pass defenders. You could argue all of the pass defenders except for Bobby Wagner there.
Well, I mean, you got to think, as these quarterbacks become more mobile, there is a bigger emphasis put on pass rushers. So obviously the spotlight is going to go up, and even the players notice it, and they're not immune to that. Nick Bosa and Aaron Donald are right up there at the top, man.
Right up there because of how important the position has become, for sure. Another thing I wanted to go position by position. Maybe let's start with the, I guess, least controversial running back. We have 2 running backs in top 10. Derrick Henry number 10, and it's Christian McCaffrey at number 6. Correct decision, yes or no?
I agree, man. I mean, if you look at the past seasons these two guys had, Christian McCaffrey, the number 1 running back in the NFL, and the number 1 pass catcher. And Derrick Henry was the number 1 pure running back, non-pass catching running backs. And both of these guys, I don't have their stats pulled up right now, but they were phenomenal last season. Who was tackling Derrick Henry last season? That guy ran over everybody. I think a lot of that comes down to other players maybe kind of intimidated by a guy like Derrick Henry, I mean, this player's voting for this.
He's 6'4".
Exactly.
He looks like a defensive lineman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's not the typical...
And he runs like a 4.4.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, he's not not really the typical running back that we're seeing lately, the 5'11" guy that can cut between the tackles and stuff. He just runs over guys. I love watching Derrick Henry play, man. So, and of course, what can you say about Christian McCaffrey, the best pass-catching running back in the NFL over the past 2, maybe 3 years altogether. Yeah, I agree with it. I agree with both of them being in the top 10.
Yeah, I do too. I think McCaffrey being the number 1 is more than deserved. I think he is, all things considered, the hardest player in the NFL to fully prepare for and stop, just because of he's the most versatile. You could say the same thing about maybe a guy like George Kittle, who's just in the same spot. We'll get to him at 7 because he's the best blocking tight end. He blocks better than a lot of offensive linemen. And he also runs like a 4.4 and is a great pass catcher, great route runner. But Christian McCaffrey, a lot of people pulled out the Barry Sanders comparison like last year already, and I tend to be slow with comparing people to the really big names. But stylistically, I can't deny it. And also just situationally, there's a lot of parallels there. Because remember, Barry Sanders spent the better part of his career on a terrible team. And he played 98% of the snaps and got 70% of the touches. And it feels like the same thing is happening with McCaffrey, at least last season. We'll see how it develops and turns out in Carolina for him coming up. But yeah, he is absolutely the MVP of that team. Best running back in the league, and definitely probably the biggest dual threat player in the league.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's what's great about him too, is you can see him going downfield on long passing routes. It's not just check downs and little slants here and there. Like you can see him catching, 20 yards downfield, 30 yards downfield in a game, which is...
He's a receiver.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's amazing. The only other guy I could compare that to would be Alvin Kamara. Gets used like that from time to time, but, not quite as often.
Yeah, Kamara kind of is not that high just because he has to split the offense with a lot of other talent. Like Michael Thomas, who we should maybe get to, the number 1 receiver, and this is one that I have to criticize a little bit, because there's DeAndre Hopkins at 8, and there's Julio Jones outside of the top 10 at number 11. Now, I don't quite disagree with this order. I would flip this order if I could. I would put Julio as my number 1 receiver in the NFL. He's still the best. Now, this is highly voted on numbers. This list is very, very highly influenced by numbers.
Yeah, obviously.
The statistics leader running back, Christian McCaffrey, number 1, the leading receiver, Michael Thomas, leading tight end, Kittle. They're all, and then Lamar Jackson, the MVP at 1. This is a very volatile list because just 1 year someone is going to be the stat leader in some category, they'll be in the top 10. And then another year they won't be on the list because they missed 3 games and they just had to share touches. Julio Jones is the best receiver in the game just as a whole package, in my opinion, has been since Calvin Johnson retired. Michael Thomas, to me, he's a great route runner, but Michael Thomas is not the complete receiver that Julio or DeAndre Hopkins is, because Michael Thomas doesn't really catch the deep ball much.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't really make the contested catches. Michael Thomas is a taller Julian Edelman. And Julian Edelman is a Hall of Famer, don't get me wrong. But he runs, like, 90% of his route tree is 10 yards or lower. You have the... he runs the slants, he runs the drags, he lines up in the slot, and he'll run the sluggos every once in a while. And the Saints love to play, like, spread formation. There are 4 receivers and everything. The field stretches vertically. And he makes great use of that, don't get me wrong. But he is very much a route runner. He lines up all over, which increases his value. But he's not as complete of a receiver. If you put him on the perimeter and you jam him one-on-one against a physical corner, like you put him on the perimeter against Gilmore all day with safety help, and he lines up outside the numbers, he's not the top receiver in the league. Because Julio and Hopkins will find ways to have 100 yards receiving and 7 catches that game.
Yeah.
But I don't think Michael Thomas will.
Well, Julio can overpower the cornerback, whereas Michael Thomas, I don't know, man. It's hard to say because we haven't seen him play anything but the slot for his entire NFL career, pretty much. And that might be because, his quarterbacks have been Drew Brees and Bridgewater for a little while. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was anybody else peppered in there at all, but I think that's it, right?
Taysom Hill might have thrown a ball here or there, but not really.
But yeah, and these guys, it's not Drew Brees only because he's aging. The guy's over 40 now, and Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have a huge arm, so he's not going to throw downfield a lot anyway. And they had the speed guy. They had Ted Ginn there for a while. But I don't know. I would like to see Michael Thomas in an offense playing the Julio role, just to see what he could do on the outside.
I have a pretty good comparison, actually. Do you remember when, I'm pretty sure you do because you know a lot about the Saints because they're in your division, but the days when the Saints would have Kenny Stills and Marquez Colston.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a receiver tandem of the style that we talked about kind of last week a little bit. And Michael Thomas really isn't that Marquez Colston, because Marquez Colston he was a perimeter guy.
Yeah, he was.
Lined up outside the numbers. You'd throw him 50-50 balls, he would catch him 70% of the time. He was that guy. And though Michael Thomas is built more closely to him than he is to Kenny Stills, he doesn't really play that style. And he doesn't make the type of catches that Julio does or that DeAndre Hopkins does, and he doesn't make the type of impact plays that they do. But he is arguably the most reliable underneath receiver. To me, that's not as valuable, because I think we can all agree that Julio's value to the Falcons is a lot higher than Michael Thomas's value to the Saints. And the same goes for DeAndre Hopkins with, the Texans are now the Cardinals, I guess.
Yeah.
Didn't seem like Bill O'Brien thought so, but we'll see how that turns out.
Bill O'Brien he's dumb. That's all I can say.
But it's a good way to put it.
It's interesting. It would be interesting to see what the Saints would do. I guess Drew Brees is not going to be around much longer, but it would be interesting to see what they do if they draft, a stud, an outside guy, a DK Metcalf, or someone, or a Julio, someone that can play that role, just to see what they do with Michael Thomas at that point. I mean, it could still be, they
kick him inside even more. It
could be the Godwin's Evans type deal, but
the Saints have a long history of just playing tight ends on the perimeter. They did it with Jimmy Graham. Jared Cook does it because they didn't have the receivers there. Michael Thomas doesn't really do it that much.
Yeah, Jesus, what was the guy's name they had in between Graham and Cook? The guy with the long hair. I forgot his name right offhand. But I was wondering. Yeah. It's neither here nor there. I was just wondering what happened to him. I haven't seen him in a few years now.
I think I know what you mean, but I don't know.
Yeah, he started out with the Colts and then ended up with the Saints there. But either way, one thing I'm going to say about this list, though, does it look to you like the players are playing fantasy more?
Kind of does, because they are really ranking people by the numbers. I feel like a lot of people just opened their fantasy and they took the top 100 highest scores and they just put them in that order.
Yeah, because I look at these rankings and I'm like, yeah, this looks a lot like my rankings. I wouldn't put Russell Wilson ahead of Patrick Mahomes. Actually, I would have Patrick Mahomes number 1, but other than that, if you take out the defensive players, these are good rankings right here. These are the draft in this order list,
It's pretty much, just to put less value on quarterbacks.
Yeah, you could.
So quickly, something we have to call out the joke of a quarterback ranking in the lower bracket. Drew Brees 12, Tom Brady 14, Aaron Rodgers 16. That is bad comedy. That is really bad comedy. They should stick to playing football. I said this, I tweeted this out. It's not funny. Never do it again. Completely ridiculous. And similar, though not quite as offensive, also the ordering of the quarterbacks in the top 10. So let's talk about that real quick. We have Lamar Jackson, number 1. He's the MVP. What are you going to expect? The stats, the spin move against Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He's a cheat code. Russell Wilson 2, and Patrick Mahomes number 4. Explain.
I can't, man. I don't know. What are they? I mean, I get it. Russell Wilson he's a really good quarterback. He was having half of a career season last season, but
he's a Hall of Famer. He's great, yeah.
But he's no Patrick Mahomes. He's no Patrick Mahomes. He'll be a Hall of Famer. He's really good. He's not what Patrick Mahomes is, though. I mean, he's not revolutionizing the game. I don't know. Well, I'm trying to rationalize why they thought. I don't know. Did the players have something against Patrick Mahomes at this point?
I don't know. I was gonna ask the question in another way. What does Patrick Mahomes need to do at this point to be number 1 on this list? Because he's never been. Last year was Aaron Donald. He's never been number 1, and
he was number 4 last year.
He's number 4.
Yeah.
What are you going to expect him to do more than he has done in 2 years? The best 2 years that a quarterback has ever had in the NFL, let alone the best first 2 years that a quarterback has ever had in the NFL. What is he supposed to do? He can't win 18 games, 17, 18 games a season. He can only do what's possible. How is he number 4?
I guess he's going to have to go to the Pro Bowl and the Super Bowl in the same season. Back to back, and dominate both of them.
And he also has to show up to the Pro Bowl and actually win the game and the skills showdown, and then go play the Super Bowl. There it is. I see. Okay. And then he has to go and announce the Chiefs' first overall pick.
Yes. There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm starting to figure this out.
I mean, that'll at least get him to number 2.
In summer, actually, he has to suit up for the Royals in summer and actually play some baseball too.
Oh, I'm sure he could, actually. He was a baseball player.
Oh, he could, yeah. He's part-time owner of the Royals now.
Exactly.
I know, that was fast.
I don't know. Yeah, sure, if he stays as a part owner, what are the chances that he actually plays a game one day?
Yeah, if he's done with football, why not? I mean, he might as well, right? But I'm pretty sure his NFL contract forbids him from playing baseball.
Yeah. I'm just thinking maybe...
Smart.
Maybe at the end of his contract, he's, I mean, I guess he will be kind of older there, but you can play baseball into your later years. I mean, look, Jordan tried it, Yeah,
he might retire after this contract. He's got 12 years.
Yeah.
Made $500 million. Retire, plays baseball.
Exactly. Yeah. I wonder if they would kick him over to the minor league or actually give him a spot. How good of a baseball player was he?
He's a partial owner of that team. I don't think he's going to the minors. I don't know though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
We talked about this actually just yesterday with The Rock having purchased part of the XFL. And we were thinking about could he suit up and just play?
Yeah,
but I doubt it.
I mean, he is.
I would love to see.
He is much older, but it would be the most wrestling thing to do to say, I'm part owner of the XFL. I will also be starting for St. Louis.
Yeah.
Just
I think we had some interesting ideas fantasy booking wise there.
Oh yeah, of course.
that should definitely come to fruition. But yeah, Mahomes at number 4. I mean, what is he supposed to do? And it's like, this is kind of like Jesus Christ materializing in front of people, like coming down from the heavens in a beam of light and materializing in front of people, like in an obviously magical way. And everyone's like, well, how do we know you're the real one? Like, it just obviously happened, and like you prove it.
Maybe that's what it is. It's the false messiah
that's
complex.
what it is.
That
what does he need to do? I don't understand. He's the best player I've seen ever. Has the potential to be the best player ever since Jerry Rice, and best quarterback in the NFL right now for 2 years, just unmatched. I don't understand it. Lamar, okay, he's the MVP, stat leader, had the flashiest season. Mahomes, we have to say this, Mahomes missed a couple games with injury, which is fair. But then why didn't he get number 1 last season, whenever he was the MVP?
Yeah, with 50 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe last season their excuse was, well, it's only his first season, it was great, but let's see if he can do it again. So he does this season. They're like, well, he missed a couple games.
Lamar.
Oh, God. Did you see Lamar Jackson run, though? Come on.
Yeah, it'll be something. I don't know.
I like Lamar. I mean, I can't hate on Lamar Jackson being number 1 because I really like him.
He had a great season. I mean, it's okay if you're going to go by that and you just strictly evaluate season by season. Lamar was the MVP. Mahomes missed games. You could put him at number 1. That's fine. But what you can't do in the same list
is Tom Brady at 14.
Tom Brady at 14. Yeah. J.J. Watt at like 45, and have Larry Fitzgerald on the list. Like, Larry Fitzgerald is the most acceptable, but you can't have J.J. Watt and Tom Brady on this list.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're going by one season, make up your mind. What's it going to be? Like, is it going to be the year or the career award? And I don't quite understand it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. That's for sure.
Because it seems like everywhere in the top 10, it's the year. Because all these guys had great years.
Yeah. Stefan Gilmore would not have made number 9 last season. Or if you looked at his career as a whole perspective, he wouldn't make number 9. So it had to be going off last year.
Yeah, but it's always a weird influence. Like, look at George Kittle, right? He was 7 this year. What was he last year? It was like in the 20s, I think 24 or something. Yeah. And he was second tight end only last year. When last year his season was better than this year, stat-wise, not success-wise, because the team sucked. Now he had another great season, slightly less in terms of stats, but the team won, so now he's up there. So I don't know what the decision process is. I'm not arguing this because this is the correct ranking. He's best tight end in football. He's the best tight end since arguably Tony Gonzalez, and I think he's better than Gronk, and he will prove to do so. He'll prove to be that over the next few years. He's a faster Gronk, and he blocks better. But by the way, highest ranking for a tight end ever, which is something. But he should have been higher last year and lower this year.
I have a problem with Zach Ertz making this list, but I do not see Mark Andrews anywhere.
Because it was all Lamar, you see.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
That's what it was. He has to be number 1.
No other Ravens offense gets to make this list, obviously. I don't know.
No, Mark Ingram did, I think, and Ronnie Stanley, but not very high either. Not very high. It was all Lamar.
Yeah, he was 44,
Yeah, it was all Lamar. And then Tyreek Hill and Kelsey both made, like top 30?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There were 5, at least, tight ends better than Zach Ertz this past season.
Yeah, I think so. The Eagles had a rough year. Well, they'll be back, but it was a tough season. So that's kind of a name award, I would argue.
Well, that's just it. Are we going off of career or are we going off of last season?
It depends. If you've already had a good career, you're going off that. If you had a good last season, you go off that.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know. We'll have to see. Overall, I like these lists. I typically think they're more accurate and better than the quote-unquote experts list, and this is completely also throwing shade on myself and everyone else in the business, because no one can judge it better than the people who play it, right? You can't know until you played against the guy. Or you can't know as well, at least. But to me, it's a bit too twitchy in that sense. It's really just make up your mind: is it this year or is it overall?
Yeah.
But that should be it for now. Let us know about what you think about this, and we're going to go into your segment. And we have fantasy, or I guess not even just fantasy, but in general, tight end breakout candidates for the upcoming clown season 2020. If you haven't seen the quarterbacks, the receivers, and the running backs, we've covered those over the last 3 scoreboard episodes, so go check those out if you have not done so. But today it's tight end time, and I will make a guess. I will give a couple of names as always, what could be on your list, and then I'll be surprised by what you actually put.
Yep.
So we all know, and this is common wisdom, Iowa makes the best tight ends, right?
Yes,
this is just
of course,
and especially in latter years, this is true. And I think you're going to get blinded by the Kittle hype quite strongly. And you're going to put Hawkins. You're going to have T.J. Hawkinson and Noah Fant on this list.
Correct. You are absolutely correct. I think you'll have them
correct. Both on this list.
Yes, I do.
And here's a. I'm not sure if he still qualifies for your list at this point, but just poetically, I want Hunter Henry to be there again.
Oh, I did have him in my honorable mentions because I couldn't decide whether last season was a breakout or not with Hunter Henry. He was kind of on the borderline there. I mean, he had some great weeks and he had some down weeks, but
he had a good season, but the team level wasn't that high.
I put him in the same category with Tyler Higbee over with the Rams. And did he actually break out? Because for the last 6 games of the season, he was outscoring every tight end that ever played. Like literally outscored every tight end with yardage and touchdowns But can we count that as a breakout? I mean, it was only the last 6 games or so.
So he's not on the list. I'm gonna just make a couple more guesses, just to like hypothetical list. I'll say Darren Waller. I'm gonna say I guess you don't consider. Yeah, you know what? You might still go Austin Hooper, even though he's not with Atlanta anymore.
Both of those
and I'm gonna
guys.
say Max Williams.
Both of those guys definitely broke out.
Okay, so you consider those broken out.
Yeah.
So then I'll just say Max Williams as my 5th guy, and we'll see what you have.
I mean, Darren Waller, he's right up there with Mark Andrews for probably the 3rd spot in the league. Over Zach Ertz, by the way.
Yeah.
But who was the other one you said? The last one?
Max Williams.
Max Williams. No, hey, didn't make my list. I'll tell you who, real quick to get these last few honorable mentions out of the way. Ian Thomas, now that Greg Olson's gone. And, Teddy Bridgewater loves checkdowns and things like that. So he could have a good chance this season. Chris Herndon, who I had on my list last season, who probably could have broken out, but we'll never know because he only played half of one game the entire season. Once he came back from suspension, he apparently got injured practicing to come back. I don't know what happened. I mean,
the Jets season was weird.
Yeah, it's probably all Adam Gase's fault, to tell you the truth.
Probably all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one
trace it back somehow.
Yeah. The other one is Mike Gesicki, and the reason I don't have Mike Gesicki on the list, I mean, he's an incredible athlete. He might be up there with Noah Fant for the best athlete on this list, but who knows what the quarterback situation is going to be like there. And he had a rapport with Fitzpatrick at the end of the season. He was coming on, but I'm still iffy, and I don't think the Dolphins are going to turn it around anytime this season. So
depends on Tua.
Yeah, exactly. But we will start with number 5. My number 5 is actually the Dallas Cowboys' Blake Jarwin. And you might hate this just because he's a Cowboy.
No, I don't.
But Jason Witten is gone. This happens to be his 4th year, so he's primed for a breakout. Last season, he finished the season with 31 receptions on 41 targets, 365 yards, 3 touchdowns, and that equals 5 yards after the catch. That's something I really look into for tight ends is yards after the catch. You know, can they catch that ball and actually break some tackles, because they're usually in the middle of the field and they're going to get hit almost immediately after catching the ball. So if you can get yards after the catch, that's really valuable for a tight end. He was very efficient, though. I mean, looking at these numbers, very efficient and not many drops. I mean, he caught 31 of his 41 targets, which is big for me with a tight end breakout also. I mean, you got to be able to hold on to the ball when it comes your way. So I don't think any of these guys has more than 10 drops in the entire season last year. But what do you think? What do you think about Blake Jarwin?
I like the pick, actually. Yeah, he's got big boots to fill, obviously. Jason Witten left for Vegas, which is just funny in a different way. But yeah, the Cowboys typically, or for a long time, they tend to have a solid underneath passing game. And tight end is a big part of that still in today's NFL. And we know that Mike McCarthy isn't necessarily the most new school coach in terms of schematics. And he likes to have a tight end on the field. And yeah, I can see this, actually. I didn't consider it quite as much because with Dallas, you're always thinking the flashy receivers. You got Amari and CeeDee Lamb and Michael Galvin. And Prescott is not going to throw the ball anywhere between the numbers all year, is what it feels like. But the tight end's a good point. And yeah, I like it. It's actually kind of an oversight for me. I can see it. I don't hate it because he's a Cowboy. I think it makes sense.
Good. All right. Number 4 is also a fourth-year guy, and he happens to play for Tennessee. This is Jonnu Smith. With Delanie Walker out of the way finally, maybe we can see Jonnu Smith come and take over that position and be the guy he was drafted to be. Now, he is the smallest guy on this list. That's why he's not higher than 4th. Otherwise, from what we've seen out of him in the past, I would definitely have him higher on the list. But I like the tight ends to be bigger and more durable. But we could see Jonnu Smith put up some massive numbers and then get injured halfway through the season. But last season, 35 receptions, 44 targets, 439 yards on 3 touchdowns, and that is a 7.8 yards after the catch, which is amazing. I love anything over 6 and 7 yards after the catch for tight ends. It's all up to Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill, was that a fluke last season, or is he going to continue what he started? What do you think?
I think the Titans will be good. I don't think they'll go back to an AFC Championship game with the way they went last year, because it was kind of like the Cinderella story and they shocked everybody with their success. I do think it was a bit of a fluke, but they're still better than we thought initially. They are a team that will contend for the playoffs, and I think Jonnu Smith has a chance to contribute. You mentioned Delanie Walker is currently a free agent still, is finally gone. And Jonnu Smith is definitely an underdog story. I do remember him being drafted. I think he went like super late, like 3rd or 4th round. And he came from a small college, like was it Florida International or something?
Yeah, it was.
Like he's undersized, like 250, and he's like 6'2", and he's not that big, like you mentioned. He's not that fast and not that prestigious, but he does have a shot. Now, he is going to be the designated starter most likely in that offense, and the offense has been very good creating underneath holes, and there's not a better player you can want on your team than, you mentioned him, Derrick Henry, when you're tight end. Because one thing that Derrick Henry will force everyone to do is, first of all, put 7, 8 people in the box. And linebackers will step up, and they'll step up fast, because that's the only way you can close those gaps and actually meet him at the line of scrimmage and make sure to get someone to help you tackle him, because it's very hard to do on the open field. So linebackers will be twitchy, they'll be paranoid stepping up, and they'll be over-aggressive playing the Titans, and that's exactly what's going to open up those underneath, those table routes, and those drag routes that you see so prominently in the Shanahan and McVay concepts, off of the play passes, the zone play passes, which turn typically tight ends into yak monsters. So I do like this situation that he's in. I think this is a good pick.
A good deal. And yeah, he definitely showed that when he did get receptions, he had the yards after the catch. Number 3, and this guy was actually my number 1 throughout a lot of the offseason. But this offseason is the problem. I mean, the guy's changing teams. And, usually you don't want to put a guy who's changing teams high up there, but the guy is stepping into a lot of production. And, well, it's Hayden Hurst, third-year guy, moving to the Atlanta Falcons. And we saw 75 catches and 97 targets for Austin Hooper last season. If he walks into 97 targets, this guy is more athletic than Austin Hooper. He was a better college tight end than Austin Hooper. Last season, he had 30 receptions, 39 targets, 349 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 5 yards after the catch. And he did that playing behind Mark Andrews. Now, there's no more Mark Andrews in the picture because he's not in Baltimore anymore. So I think if this was a regular offseason, Hayden Hurst would be my number 1.
Yeah, that is high praise. I don't think I'd put him at number 1. Mm-hmm. So you're saying if he was still in Baltimore, but Mark Andrews was no longer there, or what do you mean?
No. He's changing teams, so he's got to learn a new offense, under Dirk.
Oh, okay, and because they have struggles with Cam, and they're not going to have preseason games. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, I can see that. I do remember him actually going to the Ravens. People were raving about it. They're like, wow, he's really good. And he kind of never got that starting role. And he was a great tight end coming out of college. I think he was my number 1 tight end.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was my number 1 that year, actually. I don't remember.
What's surprising is I had him right there with Mark Andrews. I had him ahead of Mark Andrews, of course, as most people did. But Mark Andrews was also a great tight end for Oklahoma. And then Hayden Hurst, coming out of South Carolina, he was a little older than most of the tight ends in that class, but he was definitely projected to be the number 1 tight end out of that class. So I think he can.
And I think that's where I had him.
I think he can live up to that potential here in Atlanta. If he's going to get 97 targets, there's no reason why he can't get a lot of production out of that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you've seen Austin Hooper did pretty well last year.
Exactly.
And it is a very strong passing attack. I should have, of course, this is a big oversight. I should have, of course, known that he was going to be on your list. I think you have, without fail, put an Atlanta Falcon on every list that you make, if at all possible. So not a big surprise. But it is actually a reasonable pick. I'll give you that. It's not like this is crazy or anything. I think it makes a lot of sense. Considering that Austin Hooper did perform quite well, scored a lot of touchdowns also. Matt Ryan, you mentioned it last week, somehow doesn't really throw to Julio much in the end zone. So tight ends might fill in for that.
Now, I will point out that I put Austin Hooper on the list last year, and he definitely broke out.
That's true. That is true. That was still your homerism, but you did end up being right.
Yes, exactly. I just want to.
True. Same happened to me with George Kittle 2 years ago. Sometimes,
There you go.
That's the way it goes.
Gotta pat myself on the back here. Hold on. All right.
Yep.
Number 2, as you said, Iowa makes the best tight ends.
Yep. The best.
TJ Hawkinson, the highest drafted tight end on this list. Possibly one of the best athletes. I don't think he's better. Mike Gesicki's technically not on the list. I think Mike Gesicki is the best athlete out of all these guys, but he's up there. What did he get? 32 receptions on 59 targets. Oh, you know what? I was wrong earlier when I said no one had more than 10 drops. But you have to overlook that because these passes for most of the season wasn't coming from Matt Stafford. It was coming from David Blau, if you remember that guy, which I hope not too many people do.
Forcibly.
Yeah, 367 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6.25 yards after the catch. Now, the only thing that holds this back is we really don't know what to make out of the COVID thing right now because he is currently on the COVID list along with Matt Stafford. But
I think they reactivated Matt Stafford just today.
Oh, really?
Something like that. I think he had a false positive test or something.
Oh, nice.
But actually, I'm not sure. I'm not sure this is a bad thing at all because that means at least he's not going to be one of the people who is going to miss 3 weeks during the season because of that.
True, and he does have another, a season there already, so it's not like he's learning a brand new offense or anything. So, yeah, I like it, man. T.J. Hockenson, number 2.
I do like him. I had him. Of course, he came out the same year as Noah Fant, actually, 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Those 2 tight ends from Iowa, and they were number 1 and 2 on everybody's rankings. Mm-hmm. And it was how does the school keep producing those guys? That was during after the breakout season of Kittle, and it was Iowa, just put on the big stage. I liked him a lot better than Noah Fant actually that year. I had him more 1 and 2, but I had Hockenson firmly at number 1. I think he's the more complete player. He's more of a George Kittle. He's a carbon copy physically of George Kittle, and he can run too. It's time for him to put up though. And he was drafted number 8 overall. That is high praise. If you're a tight end, you're drafted that high, you better be good. Because the yardstick there is Rob Gronkowski, who was drafted that high in the first round, and or was drafted that high. Not a lot of tight ends do anymore, and being 8 overall, that is very high draft. And he definitely needs to have a breakout season soon, I think, for that pick to have validated itself for the Lions. I do like the pick, and of course he's one of the guys I guessed, along with Noah Fant, who's going to probably be your number 1.
Yes.
And that's both the Iowa guys. I can see why you put Fant at 1 over him, and that's because it's just in a better situation, because we generally like the Broncos outlook a lot more than the Lions outlook. I will say that he should be in a good situation in Detroit, given that the Packers, even the Bears and Vikings, haven't done a great job defending tight ends. So he's arguably in a kind of soft division, if we can call it that, for the inside or the underneath linebackers. He doesn't have a lot of good coverage linebackers in that division, for lack of a better way to say it. So I think he's in a good spot, but he definitely has some pressure on him because he's going to be the one who needs to be the feature player in this offense. If they're going to make a serious push this year.
Well, and that leads us right into number 1, which is, of course, Noah Fant. 40 receptions on 66 targets, 562 yards, highest on this list. 3 touchdowns, 8.25 yards after the catch. That's an amazing stat line for a rookie tight end. It really is. Drew Lock should keep improving this season. He's definitely the most efficient. It's very rare to find a first-year tight end. I think Evan Ingram may be the only one that came close to putting up numbers like that as a tight end in his first season. And the only downside I could see to this is you have 3, which should be very good pass catchers there already at the wide receiver positions, and Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and KJ Hamler. Now, I love all 3 of those wide receivers, but there's no reason why Drew Lock is not going to need some checkdowns and some over the middle passes. And no offense, that guy. I mean, he's athletic. The guy is a yards after the catch monster. So I see him as breaking out, and I would put money on him to be the biggest guy on this list by the end of the season.
Yeah, I can't argue with it just because of the situation. Can we take a second to acknowledge how young this Broncos team is? You got 2 rookie receivers, Cortland Sutton, 2. You got Drew Lock, second-year quarterback Noah Fant, the young tight end. And by the way, add to that what might be a pretty dynamic duo of running backs in Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay. Yeah. So, very young team, but the potential for the future years is definitely there. And you mentioned it, having a lot of, or sharing your offense with a lot of other skill players can be good, it can be bad. So, talking about individual stats. You have the Christian McCaffrey, the Barry Sanders situation where you're the only guy who's really good, and therefore you get the ball every time because you're the only guy who can really make a play. Which means that 8 people will be focusing on you pre-snap, but you're good enough to make the plays anyways, and you get a lot of opportunities. And then you have kind of the opposite of that situation, and this is typically the case when you look at a lot of really strong dynasties, like the 2000s, 2010s Patriots. You had Randy Moss, you had Rob Gronkowski later, Julian Edelman, Danny Amendola. There was always like three great players there. You look at the Cowboys of the 90s, the 49ers of the 80s. You could probably name like 4 skill players from each of those offenses, including quarterbacks, and that are also in the Hall of Fame, just because they had so many targets to spread the ball around. And that's typically what, for a team, is the best recipe to success, because it just poses too many mismatches to most defenses. And that's the situation the Broncos are trying to create. I think John Elway's had a good couple of drafts for the first time in a long time, admittedly. But I think they're going somewhere. And, the Broncos themselves are a great example of that during the Peyton Manning years. I mean, remember?
Of course, yes.
Remember the record-breaking offense? He was throwing to everybody. Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, Julius Thomas was there, Eric Decker. It was filthy, the amount of receiver talent on that team. That helps a young quarterback. That helps a young quarterback a lot. And he's in a prime position, Noah Fant is. No doubt. He's probably in the best position out of all of the players we mentioned today, the tight ends. He's not the individually most talented to me. That would be TJ Hawkinson. But position-wise, I can't argue with that. I would, because I like to always be the player analyst. I would probably have him flipped around, but as a fantasy guy, you're looking at raw numbers, actual expected production. I probably will have Noah Fant over Hawkinson on my draft boards. But you might have to convince me a little more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, and it's close. I mean, it could be either one of these guys to tell you the truth, because they both should be exceptional by the end of the season if everything goes right. I mean, we may be looking at 2 of these guys, if not 3, actually break into that. The Kittle, the Kelsey, the Mark Andrews range, Darren Waller.
Is there really a third person at this point?
Well,
it used
for
to be
the
the Kittle,
longest
Kelsey,
time,
Ertz.
Yeah, it was Ertz, but Andrews he's kind of cemented himself in there with one season. I mean, I guess he kind of needs to do it again if he can follow up with this season, putting up the production that he had. Then, yeah, I don't think there's any way you could leave him out. But yeah, there's usually the big 3, and Ertz.
And Gronk was there for a long time.
Well, yeah, of course.
I feel like we got a big 2 at the moment.
As soon as Gronk left, the Kittle stepped right in, and took that place.
Right. I did it better.
Yeah. Well, yeah. If you go back to well over a year ago when we first started recording this podcast, I told you that Kittle was the new Gronk. I mean, it wasn't like a big, out on a limb prediction, because he had already had a good season by that point.
He had the breakout season.
But he did cement it this past season that he is the new Gronk for sure.
And sometimes you have those players, and he's one of the players where it was kind of easy to see instantly. Coming out of college, and then after even just his first year where he was kind of like the backup guy, was like sharing snaps with like Vance McDonald and Garrett Selleck, if you can believe it. But even before his breakout year, I knew it already, and I made the video about it. I said he's going to be the best tight end in the league in 3 years, because you can just tell. Like, some people you can just tell, you just know, and he's one of those players that made it kind of easy. Doesn't happen a lot, but occasionally, like, those players are typically the analyst's best friend, because you're gonna probably be right unless they somehow get hurt.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I thought similar things about Hawkinson. I might have been blinded by the Kittle hype, but again, you like to preach how tight ends typically need a lot of time. 3-4 years is when we start talking about breakouts. Yes. So we'll give him that time. He does have a lot of pressure on him. Noah Fant is in a better situation, but I do agree with most of the list. Retroactively, I think Max Williams, who I mentioned, is definitely a deeper pick. But yes. I thought maybe you think, Arizona, the hype is real. And he found a new team. Maybe he's going to go crazy.
It's just that they haven't used the tight ends. Well, I mean, you could blame that on coaching, whatever you want to. But, I mean, it's still possible. Or
maybe the fact that Kyler Murray can't throw over the middle because he's too short.
That might be.
If only someone had said that like 2 years ago, right?
How tall is Max Williams, by the way? Do you know right offhand?
Max Williams? How tall is he?
Because I'm wondering if his height offsets that, if he's,
I don't know about that.
Because you got Kyler Murray, who's probably a good 4 inches shorter than the line. So if you got a guy who's 4 inches taller than the line, it might offset it a little bit, you know.
I don't think he is. He's like an average for like a tight end. He's like 6'4" or something. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Actually,
he's no.
I remember scouting him when he was drafted by Baltimore. Let me see.
Yeah, he's no Mo Alley Cox or or Levine Toyolo, who was like 6'7". I think Mo Alley Cox is like 6'8" or something.
Might have been, yeah. Toyolo was with the Falcons, right? Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, well,
and the Niners actually.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's 6'4". True. So nothing special there. But yeah, Kyler Murray is too short to throw underneath routes over the middle.
Yeah. Consistently,
because his height of release literally just is too low off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is, and that's not something that's going to change. So the offense, of course, is adjusted around him. A lot of rollouts, of the perimeter throws. And a lot of very widespread protection.
Yeah, I would like to think that Cliff Kingsbury wants to use a tight end. I know Bruce Arians has never been big on tight ends. I mean, I don't know anyone that can name a year that he used a tight end predominantly in the receiving game. But
he seemed pretty good. He seemed pretty happy about bringing Gronk in this year.
That's what's weird, man. I don't know. I mean, he already has a world-class athlete, O.J. Howard, who was supposed to be one of my breakouts last season, and it didn't work out because of Bruce Arians. But I don't know.
I think it's mostly just you want to appease Brady, you know, bring in his best friend, his like big tight end. You know, Brady has a history of being able to rely on Gronk throwing him the 50-50 balls. Mm-hmm. And if that's what you want, then you know, bring him in. Why not?
Yeah.
Also, you're selling jerseys. I mean, you can't argue with that. Whenever Rob Gronkowski, somewhere merch will be sold.
Oh, of course.
And tickets will be sold. So
it's gonna be so weird to see him in not blue though.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. Like I guess Brady too.
That's true. Brady too.
It's very weird.
A lot of big names or longtime franchise players are going to change colors.
Yeah.
Phillip Rivers is going to be tough. Cam Newton, DeAndre Hopkins, they're all going to be. It's going to be a little bit of a change, but we'll have to get used to it. I think it'll be fun. But that's the top 5 tight ends, and I've heard or I've been told that starting next week we will take a little bit more focus going back into actual fantasy football, because of course that is your absolute specialty. Mm-hmm. So we'll get some big time insight, which is good because my drafts are also coming up towards the end of August, and I would like some input on those. That's always a good idea, and that's definitely the number one person to turn to. So you'll enlighten us with some of that wisdom there. And we're going to have your fantasy segments in the podcast in the future. But as for today, do you have anything else you want to mention?
I guess that's it for now.
All right. So, everybody, thank you for watching the podcast, and drop a like on it if you did enjoy it. Also, let me remind you to subscribe to Beyond Football as well as Trash Talk Sports for all the news, the sports, and the fantasy coming up soon that you're going to need carrying you through the 2020 season. And you might even be able to make some money with those tips, because I've heard they're pretty good. But we'll leave that to be seen starting next week. But for now, thank you for watching, and we're going to see you in the next one.
Deuces.